Welcome to Navigating the Truth. It's June 4th, 2023, and I have uploaded the entire show for this week as I have a special guest that joins me in the second half of the show. So enjoy the show.
To bring you this.
We've hijacked your daily dose of regurgitated news to bring you Navigating the Truth. Brace yourself, listeners, as you're about to enter a world where the narrative is no longer masqueraded as the truth. A world where the conspiracies of yesterday's translate into the truths of today.
Are you listening?
The veils covering the truth are lifting, and understandings once suppressed are finally being revealed. Will you be ready? And now, your host and navigator through these circles of lies, the host of Navigating the Truth, Caroline Bell Tumblety.
Hi, welcome to Navigating the Truth, and it is Sunday, June the 4th, and I believe we have a full moon, and I think it's called a strawberry moon. So, I'm hoping, the build-up of the past month, I'm going to get some kind of relief here, because I felt like, past 2 weeks, really, I just felt this energy building and building and building, and I think this morning was the first time I actually woke up and felt pretty calm. So I put that to the full moon, and I think it's in Scorpio, which is what I am, and I get like 5 or 6 planets in Scorpio, so I'm a doozy. And I want to thank the listeners and welcome them to Navigating the Truth, and I want to thank them for the donations. And there is a donation button on KCR Radio's webpage if you like what you hear. And there are many, many shows here, excellent hosts and guests. Click that donate button. And my website is Caroline, no it's not, it's souliam.org. My Facebook is Caroline Bell Tumblety, and I now have a YouTube channel, so I'm uploading the past shows, like the first 30 minutes, 40 minutes, and I think I've got like maybe 25 of them up so far, and all the great guests that I have had since I began in November, and and I've had the opportunity to kind of listen to them again, and I want to thank the guests that have come on, and it has been a learning curve for me, that's for sure. And even although I might at sometimes think I'm a know-it-all, there's no way I know it all. Like, there's always something to learn. And the subject I wanted to talk about was stress, basically because I have been feeling it, and everybody that I am talking to has been feeling it. And the funny thing about stress is, like, for the longest time in my life, I never even realized that I was stressed. I never even realized it. And it was certain little things would happen and I would react, and it would be out of character. And that was like the telltale for me that something was off, And it could have been work, it could have been anything. I was pretty much a single mom in New York, and that kind of comes with stress. Like, anybody who's single parent out there can understand that. You need eyes in the back of your head, especially when they're young, and try to keep them safe, and also making sure that they're well taken care of, and that they know that they are loved and cared for. So stress. And the thing about stress is it's one of these things, like, it's different for everybody. Everybody experiences it differently. Like, some of the effects are how you feel or think or behave, how your body works. Like, stress can make you feel like you're losing control over something. Well, at least for myself. And I'm sure that there are listeners out there that have felt this as well. You can affect your sleeping. You can be sweating for no reason. You can lose your appetite, low energy. You become like unfocused, cloudy thinking. changes in your like your emotional responses to others, like are all like symptoms of stress. And they say that stress is not an illness itself. It's like our fight or flight. Like it's like a surge of hormones that your body starts to produce, and these hormones are released to enable you to deal with the pressures or the threats. And they call it, well, they used to call it the fight or flight response. The thing about stress is over like time, or over like for extended periods of time, like what happens to our bodies is like something will happen and our hormones kick in, like our stress reaction or fight or flight. But usually it calms down. And I think what has been happening here to everybody in the world is the past 3 years has just been one thing after another. And just when you breathe deep and think, okay, I can do this, I can get through this, something else is slammed on you. I mean, like, I'm 61 years of age, and I have never seen, and I never expected to see what I have been seeing these days. And for these past few years, the stresses on how we make a living, like our financial situations. I mean, at this point, I have more going out than's coming in, and it is a juggle. And I know I'm not alone. I know I'm not. I know that there are many, many out there. And this is where I would come to like caring for each other, like actually being interested in the other. Like I think it's important. I think it's important for our well-being as well as the well-being of others. I think yeah, like my sleeping pattern has been all over the charts. Like my appetite, I've actually dropped maybe about 12 pounds in the past, I would say maybe 5, 6 weeks, or maybe even less than that. And it's just like, yeah, I mean, we have wars, we have plagues, we have weather that is the most unnatural thing ever. The we have like these, and it's no like there's suspicions or conspiracies, like even although like we are labeled that way, these are real things that are happening, like real attacks, real harassments, like people having opinions not being allowed, like I thought we would have been further along than this. And that creates the stress in me as well, like the realization that and I know that there are many of us who are further along, and we're looking at this going, what the heck is got how did this happen? How did the insanity just take over? And is it like so that we can really change, like collectively, like as beings who occupy this realm, and all our differences, and which I think is absolutely the best part is the fact that we are so different. And I know that there are a group that just seem to not have a pulse or a heartbeat because they just are so out of touch, and we know who they are. We know that, and they're the ones pulling the strings. They're the ones like feeding the media and creating these crazy times that we find ourselves in. And how do we keep our head? How do we keep our balance? How do we share? How do we open? Because I can only speak for me. I've been putting up barriers like continuously, like probably all my life. Like, probably started out as this little kid, like open heart, loving everybody, like just trying to figure it out. I mean, for the get-go, I remember actually being a child and being like in a school situation and thinking to myself, all these people know how to behave. Like I felt like that I was missing a component or something. And what it was really early. I wasn't willing to just go along with everything. Like I was one of these kids that if I was unhappy, you knew it. If I was happy, you also knew it. And I questioned everything. Like I must have been like I was always asking why is it like that? Like what? And it annoyed the adults. Like I really did annoy the adults. Like when I look back, I know I did. Like they they didn't want to be questioned, like there was things that were said that was like do as I say and not as I do, which was like the biggest contradiction I'd ever like. I was so puzzled by the behaviors, the adults, the people who were around me, and a lot of times I didn't really feel safe. Like there was times when I felt like some of the situations, some of the I mean, I grew up in a working class family, like hard working, like in Glasgow, very, very tough city. I mean, street fighting. I remember watching my grandfather through the window in the kitchen, and this was how they settled arguments. And it must have been like maybe the early 60s. I must have been maybe 4 or 5, and I was standing at the window, and these two grown men, and they had their sleeves rolled up, and they had their toe to toe, like their feet were like they would just put their feet toe to toe, and they would punch each other. And that was how they settled their disagreements. They didn't bring in the police. They weren't able to talk about it. It was just, this is how we settle it. Whoever wins is right. And I remember watching that through the window and being really afraid, like of the violence, of the what would you call it? It almost like a kind of barbaric kind of way. I remember thinking that and there was a lot of violence. I mean, there was a lot of drinking, a lot of violence. But I was also the granddaughter. My grandfathers, both of them on both sides, were war veterans, and they had both served. Like my great granddad actually served in World War One and World War Two, and both my grandfathers were World War Two, and my dad did national service. All my uncles did national service. Military was it wasn't they like I didn't come from a military family. I came from a family that believed in the rights. Freedom, and they believed that there was this enemy out there that was attempting to take that freedom. And being the men that they were, they wanted to defend it, and they truly believed that that is what they were doing. My little Granda Carolyn, I remember him actually saying, "You will never need to worry because we did this." They really believed it. They really believed that fighting those wars was securing the future of their children and their grandchildren and their great-grandchildren, like all the way down the generations. And here we are, I'm 61. And I'll tell you, they would be turning in their graves. They really would. I mean, they came back shell-shocked. They couldn't talk about the trauma that they had experienced. their friends like killed in front of them. I mean, my great granda, he actually would have like night terrors, and he would that was what he would call it in the night, was the planes and the bombs, and he would scream, and you were seen as a coward if you mentioned these things. You weren't allowed to talk about these things, and they were quick to hit their women. And when I look back on it, they had no way of dealing with it. The way that was like a conditioned, like an accepted, like this country, the big drinkers, like alcohol has always been a big, big thing. It is less so now, but any excuse for a party, any excuse for a drink, any excuse for a fight, that is kind of bred into you early on. And I rejected every part of it. I was not happy with it, and whenever I felt myself being that way, it would disturb me. It would disturb me so much. I even remember like sitting behind the couch crying because I had fought with the neighbor next door, and I was defending myself. It wasn't that I had picked a fight. I was defending myself. That was another thing. I was told, if somebody hits you, you hit them back. I mean, we were street fighters. We were like, that was how things were settled. I mean, it sounds so bizarre, like, but it wasn't that long ago. It wasn't really that long ago. And so I think we had a few years where, I mean, I remember the 70s, like it was all unemployment and high prices on food, high prices on petrol or gas, and a lot of unemployment. So that was a decade of stress. I mean, if you look at it like, maybe World War One, like where did we get a break? Where did we get a break where we would have enough time to actually figure out that these wars that were being fought weren't being fought for the reasons that they were told. They weren't securing freedom. In fact, what they had done is they had severely damaged generations of men and the women, because the women would be trying to compensate for the fact that their men were damaged. That they, in the Vietnam War. I mean, when I was in America, when I had my hypnosis practice, I had quite a few that had been they had been veterans of Vietnam, and the things that they talked about were absolutely horrific. I mean, we know about it now because, I mean, we've had movies, certain things have came out, but that was another war, like these pointless wars that damage us on so many levels, like emotionally, psychological, like every level you can think of. And a little bit of relief would be found in the bar, like drinking with your friends, or going and playing football. That was another one. Soccer. Like I remember growing up, and my uncles know that they would all run around like kicking a ball, like running off some stress, some tension. And so I like the way that I'm kind of looking at it is I think we have been living in a stressful environment for a very, very long time. And we get little respites here and there where we're like, okay, life can be good. I can breathe. I can relax. I can kind of get on with it here. And And then boom. I mean, I have literally lived my life waiting for the other shoe to drop. I mean, that isn't a wait. That's like a half life. That's no the life that we want. That's no the life that we deserve, these horrendous situations, like money being scarce and food being tainted. I mean, how many times have we heard like Ebola, like in the practices, the storage of the food? I found out that most, like, so I don't know, you can get like your bags of like mixed salad at the supermarket and stuff. Supposedly, the most illnesses are actually those bagged salads, and it has to do with the plastic that they are using to bag them. And that was an article that my daughter had me read a couple of weeks ago, and it's like, who'd have thunk it? But there you go. So buy your lettuce, buy your tomatoes, buy it all separate. Don't go for these mixed in the plastic bags. It's not a good idea. It's not very nutritional. Well, it is nutritional, but you risk the risk something else being in that bag, that could make you ill. So that's something to think about. Always wash your fruits and veg to like thoroughly. Find a good there are solutions that you can use, like vinegar and water, like a really mild, just a small amount, like in your water, like rinsing your vegetables and your salads and stuff. That pretty much takes care of everything, and you don't need to use a lot, just a pinch of the vinegar, but it's enough. Vinegar's great for cleaning, like for windows, for furniture, even furniture likes vinegar, but again, sparingly using it. It's one of that's you. If you have a washing machine at home, like that's a great thing for cleaning out the drum. Where you would put in your liquids or your powder, your soap powder, like a little bit of vinegar, a little bit of water, and get it going on a full cycle. Like instead of using like bleach is a good cleaner, but it's and it evaporates pretty quick. So it's one of the less toxic chemicals that we have out there. And I also found out how they actually make bleach, which is actually really kind of fascinating. And it has to do with it's salt water, and it's agitated. They agitate the salt water. So bleach is actually being produced like via oceans, like and can you believe that? Oh God, I talk so fast. I am coming up on a break. So I will be back in 3 minutes, and thank you listeners, I'll be right back.
You're listening to Navigating the Truth with Caroline Bell Tumblety, where the truth survives and the lies are exposed.
I just want to assure you that everything is under control. There's been no damage except for some temporary malfunction of the radio.
Come be a part of this awakening by joining us in chat or by calling our hotline at 702-425-9230. That's 702-425-9230. Worldwide callers, find us on Skype at KCOR Radio.
We're pushing the ultimate frontier here.
Control must be maintained.
More disinformation exposed and the truth discovered. After a word from our sponsors.
1 million miles till midnight. A story of timelines, artificial worlds, simulated races, and the galactic imprint. And the destiny of a blue world called Earth. 1 million miles till midnight, written by Solaris Blue Raven, is a journey through the mind's eye which allows the reader to surf a wave of technological and multidimensional intellect, revealing a bridge between conscious design and the truth. A multidimensional bleed-through awakens the world of artificial intelligence to set sail into the frontiers of a vast multiverse, morphing planets and terraforming ascended worlds beyond the linear programs of a fated race. 1 million miles till midnight will awaken, inspire, prepare, and enlighten one to the many multidimensional states of consciousness and worlds we reside in. With every cell and atom, we are this truth and multiverse. 1 million miles till midnight. Written by Solaris Blue Raven. Available now at Amazon.com. Don't wait. Get your copy today.
1, 2, 3, 4!
To the KCOR Digital Radio Network.
I love the way it sounds.
Love the music. I listen all day.
The future of radio is here and now.
Alien Deceptions, a suspenseful sci-fi romance thriller by Tina Marie, featuring the tantalizing Erica Jones and the mysterious Russell Hamilton. An out-of-this-world book of fiction based on years of document facts and files the government does not want you to know about, at least not yet. Alien Deceptions by Tina Marie. Available now at Amazon.com or get a signed copy at TinaMarieEntertainment.com. Get your copy now.
Change your frequency, change your life with the Lemurian Plug. The Lemurian Plug is easy to control, simple to set up, and wireless. It helps to neutralize toxins and has restorative frequencies for healing. It also helps to protect you and your family from EMFs. The Lemurian Plug is energy efficient and designed using ancient technology for a superior design. One unit can cover up to 1,000 square feet. This life-changing product is reasonably priced. And isn't your family's health worth a small investment? For more information on the miraculous effects of this plug or to purchase the Lemurian Plug, visit thelemurianplug.com. That's thelemurianplug.com. The Lemurian Plug is like nothing you've ever experienced. Order yours today.
Vegas, baby! Vegas' #1 source for talk and new music.
How cool is that?
Going live in 3, 2, 1.
Welcome back to Navigating the Truth, the one show that peels back the masks of the elite and exposes the truth we're not being told.
Here to warn you.
You must not abuse the power you've been given. Eventually, you will lose control of that power and the whole world will suffer.
Come partake in the awakening by calling the show at 702-425-9230. That's 702-425-9230.
Give us a call now.
Those around the world, connect with us on Skype at KCOR Radio. Follow us on Twitter at KCOR Radio or use hashtag KCOR. Come engage in the discussion live in our chat room at www.kcorradio.com.
Our survival depends upon it.
Now, back to examining the narratives and uncovering the truth with your host of Navigating the Truth, Caroline Bell Tumblety. Caroline Bell Tumblety.
Hi, welcome back to Navigating the Truth, and I want to thank your listeners who have chosen to listen in today. And I have been talking about stress and the causes in our world that have just been ongoing. But I'm also going to talk about like maybe some of the things that we can do. You know, like one of the things that I would, one of the things I do with myself is like checking in with yourself, like asking yourself how you're feeling. You know, or getting a journal and writing down 3 things that you're grateful for. You know, like I'm not saying like write 20 things, 3 things. You know, just 3 things that you're grateful for. Like, and even like when you feel yourself kind of being agitated or stressed, you know, close your eyes, take a deep breath, get up. Like sitting is the worst. It's the worst thing we can be doing. Get up, stretch, you know. Walking is the best thing. That is what I do, that daily. So I walk daily, and I walk for at least an hour, sometimes more. I used to run. Like when I was 50, I took up running, and I loved it. And they talk about the runner's high, but here there's so much concrete here, and my legs can't take running on the beach, like the sand. Like I would need, like, but I can walk, and I can walk for miles and miles and miles, like, and it's a good de-stressor. It really is. Like I'm fortunate that I live next to the water. I don't have a whole lot of trees here. Trees are one of the most powerful things, like to go and stand with your back against a tree or sit like under a tree, even sitting on the grass, like your bare feet. Like there was that book, Earthing or Grounding, and what that was all about. I can't remember the author of that, but I remember being into that, like even having like the grounding mat like under my laptop and having it on my daughter's bed, like it would be making sure that she was grounded while she slept. Like I've been into all this stuff for a long, long time, but I'll tell you, I am still learning, and I learn something every day. Every day is a school day. I'll never stop learning. I'm gonna I have a book here, and it's Abundantly Well is the name of the book, and it is by Susan Weed. And I was very fortunate when I lived in New York that I was able to attend. She had these moon lodges that she would do once a month, and all these women would come like for miles and miles around. They would come up for the city, they would come for Connecticut, Massachusetts, and we would sit in this circle. And in the summertime, we would be outside. In the wintertime, we would be in this big barn, and we sat in chronological age. So, like, to the right of me would be where I had been, and to the left of me would be where I was going. So the women on my right were younger, and the women on my left were older. It was one of the most powerful things I ever did in my life. And I was a young mother. I mean, Willow was maybe 9 months old the first time that I went, and we would sit in this circle, and we would have talking sticks. One talking stick, and whoever had the talking stick was the one talking, and nobody interrupted. We sat and we listened, and I learned so much for the moon lodges. So I have this book here that is Abundantly Well, and she has a lot of books out. She does the Wise Woman Way, and she will do like weed walks. She'll teach you how to make a tincture, a balm. Like yeah, very fortunate that we have people like this in the world. And the page I'm going to read to you is Tonify, build flexibility and resilience. Good health is optimum functionality. In the unique present moment, tonifying builds free and flexible functioning. Tonification strengthens basic biological rhythms, pulse and unpulse, tighten and relax. Healthy functioning is regular and rhythmical. In a healthy state, the body's structures are a multi-leveled series of interacting systems and subsystems that resonate harmoniously. Health is smooth, flowing, regular, and rhythmical. From our brainwaves to our beating hearts, from our hormones to our muscles, we are rhythmical. We are spirals. We are waves. Disease is erratic, flat, linear, and inflexible. Constant low-grade stress compresses, flattens, and destabilizes our rhythms. Tonification resets our beat, expands our waves, and makes us more resilient. Tonification resets our internal clocks, taps us into deep biological wholeness, plugs us into infinity. If you try to define life, you will reach the inescapable conclusion that rhythms are among its most basic features. Every property used as an earmark of life, reproduction, respiration, irritability, all the rest is rhythmic. So why not include rhythmicity itself? And she also has this whole list that I'm actually going to read. It's foods that help, like cholesterol reducing foods, and that would be almonds. 2 handfuls lowers total cholesterol 12%. Almond oil, up to half of daily fat intake, reduces total cholesterol 4% to 6%. An apple, half a cup, dried, lowers the LDL 23%. Total, or like a raw apple will lower it as much as 40%. Apple juice, avocado, beans, peas, lentils, carrots, cayenne pepper, chili peppers, chocolate, dark chocolate, cocoa powder, cinnamon, cooked leafy greens, fatty fish, flaxseed, garlic, hibiscus, nourishing herbal infusions, nuts, oats, olive oil, oranges, orange juice, pears, roots, shiitake, mushrooms, soy, strawberries, tea, green or black, whole grains, vegetables. And then I have foods that lower blood pressure. Fruits, apples, bananas, blueberry, cranberry, fig, grape, orange. Pomegranate juice mimics the effects of ACE inhibitors. 2 ounces a day lowers systolic pressure 12%. Vegetables, broccoli, celery, dandelion greens, garlic, all mushrooms, parsley, potato, seaweed, spinach. Drinking 48 ounces of beetroot juice or cooking liquid daily decreases blood pressure about as quickly and about as much as most drugs. Beet juice and cooking water are loaded with nitrate, which turns the nitric oxide in the body, widening blood vessels and increasing blood flow. Eating 2.5 servings of purple potatoes daily provides plant compounds that act like the ACE inhibitors, increase the heart health effects by soaking potatoes in water for an hour before cooking. This increases the amount of available vitamin C, an antioxidant that heals and relaxes the blood vessels. Fats, avocado, avocado oil, olive oil, fatty fish like salmon, herrings, sardines, anchovy, and mackerel. Changing your cooking fat to sesame oil can cause a drop in blood pressure, comparable to the decrease caused by drugs. Whole grains, seeds, beans, oats, buckwheat, flaxseed, sesame seeds, lentils. Eating 2 tablespoons of flaxseed cooked into muffins or bread can cause significant lowering of blood pressure within 6 months. The effects is strong enough to lower risk of heart attack by 30% and risk of stroke by 50%. And it also reduces breast cancer risk. So there are things that we can do. And I know that there is a whole lot talk, and it's not just talk, there's a lot of fact in it, that our food isn't isn't containing the nutrients that that we need, which is causing us to eat more. And we don't all have the time or even the space to grow our own. But we can bless our food. Like we can, we have that power. We actually have that power to affect things, to change things, to rearrange them. You know, like you can. There was oh, this was way back when I had did the whole brain functioning course, and they were all about like raw food, life force, and they had a prayer. Like we would create meals together. I mean, it was all raw. Like some things were blanched. Like we would make what do you call it, miso soup, and use seaweed, but it was never like cooked. It there was no meat. It was pretty vegetarian. In a lot of cases, it would have even been vegan. Like there was times when we just did total vegan, and we prayed over the food. You know, we I mean, I know it sounds kind of cultish, but it wasn't. It was actually a really great experience. I had went out to Oklahoma, Open Spoke Ranch, and it was a Somalian Indian woman by the name of Cloud and her partner Sky. I thought it was great, like that they were Cloud and Sky. I thought it was absolutely beautiful. She also sang, Cloud. She owned this ranch in Oklahoma, and it had an obstacle course in it, and we would do firewalks, and I would trapeze, like climb telephone poles, and when you go to the top of it, there was like this little square piece of wood, and you stood on it, and you built up the courage to jump, and you were jumping for a trapeze swing, like a swing for a circus. But you had a harness on. I mean, but you didn't feel safe, let me tell you. Like when you were up there, I mean, I don't even know how high it was. Like I couldn't look down. All I could do was stare at the swing and build up the courage. And all the people on the ground, that was one of the things that they would do. Would the things that you that really hurt you or traumatized you as a child, like things that had been said to you that you had trouble letting go, they would be yelling them at you while you were up this pole. And the fact that, like, the whole idea it was like overcoming it, and it was very, very empowering. I mean, when I look back on it, I mean, I jumped. I don't know how high that pole was. That pole could have been 80 feet, 100 feet. I have no idea. I probably knew back then how high it was. It was a telephone pole. I mean, it was high, and jumped to this trapeze, you know, this swing, and we also did firewalks, which defied logic, you know, like these burning coals, and I did it. You know, I actually walked across fire. I walked across burning coals. And I did not have any blisters or burns on my feet. Like there was nothing. And I turned around and I went back over it. And I mean, these things that, these experiences in our journey that we have, they empower us. And for the longest time, like whenever I was in a situation where I felt challenged, I would remember that I had done that. And I would feel like the courage like rise up in me, and the confidence. And the eating the way that we did as well, that when I was out in Oklahoma Open Spoke Ranch, I think it was 10 days, we did this 10-day, and they called it a master track. And one of the things that we did, like at the beginning, was we all picked, our names were all in a hat, and we would pick out a name. And whoever you got, like you didn't share it with anybody, but you had to track that person. You had to, without being noticed. And it was basically figuring out like their essence and coming up with like a powerful what would you call it, like a talisman. Some people made medicine bags, and I remember I had my Herkimer diamonds with me with the sole purpose that I would make something for whoever it was that I was tracking. And it was really, really powerful. And you also I was gifted a name. I remember I was gifted a name back then, and it was Singing Dove. That was the name that I had been given. And I was given a medicine bag and a fan. And the fan was made with, what you call them, red-tail hawk. It was red-tail hawk feathers. And the medicine bag was made from, it was deer skin. But it was like, it wasn't one that you put around your neck. It was more one that you would like, kind of decorative, that you would hang up like on your wall. And it was on willow wood. Like the person that had been tracking me, that was the items that I was gifted, and I was gifted the name Singing Dove. I haven't really thought about that in a long time. That was very, very powerful. And learning about food was also, and it stuck with me, like that stuck with me. And the whole idea, synchronizing both sides of the brain, so that you weren't one or the other, you weren't working for your left brain or a right brain. You were using your whole brain. And there was a thing where time kind of fell away while we were there, and me and my friend Raquel, she was from Holland, so we kind of were buddy because we were both immigrants and had married Americans. And I remember we tried, like, there was obviously like a bunkhouse, and there was other like dwellings, there was tents, there was teepees. And there was one, it was a tree house, and it was just a platform up on the tree. And I kept saying, I really want to go up there. I want to spend the night up there. And we did. Like, there was nobody there that one night. We had kind of booked it, and we were up there. And the two years talk, and talking about the day, talking about like what we were learning. And we saw like this kind of orange light between the trees, and we were looking at each other. We were like, what is that? And this just shows you how out of time, how out of like modern linear world we were so removed from it. We were looking at this orange light between the trees, and we weren't sure what it was. It was actually the sun coming up. And we were laughing, because we were kind of like, what is that? It was so bizarre. And you would hear like somebody walking through that ranch at night, and they would be playing a flute. There would just be this flute music that would, it was a really, really cool experience. And I think that was maybe 1992, 1993. Like I was still married at the time. And, yeah, I wouldn't change that. Like, that was great. Like, that was a cross-country drive with two other women. And there was a guy there. I can't remember his name. But he was for the Anne Wigmore Institute, which was all about the food as well. And, yeah, it was very, very... Dogs didn't like him. I remember that. Dogs kept barking at him all the time. Don't know what that was about. And it was no long after the Anne Wigmore Institute had burned down. So, I mean, she put out a lot of work as well, like in connection with food, and the whole idea that you can actually change the food, by your intention, your attention, your intention. Like, you can say a little prayer. Like, it doesn't have to be much. Like it could just be like something like uh, gratitude, like thanking the food, like that that it's gonna bring wholeness and health and the necessary nutrients, minerals, vibration, like the vibration of the food is going to give you exactly what you need, and just an attitude of gratitude for it. The same with water, like I did a really cool workshop with Solaris Blue Raven, and it was cosmic cocktails, and that's what we were doing. We were charging the water. I was absolutely giddy. Like, you would think I was drinking like fine wine, but I was drinking charged water, And I mean, these stories have been around for a long time. You have Jesus turning water to wine. You have, oh, I forget. And I had, I think he's Japanese. He wrote the book, and it's all about that, how we affect it. And he did all these experiments. I can't remember his name. But yeah, you can do it, people. We can change this. And it can happen in an instant. Like this feeling like powerless. And I mean, they're acting like crazy people. They're doing crazy people things, and it's our lives that are at peril here. We're the ones that are paying for it, are paying for the lunacy. Like I'm using words lunar because of the filming. Anyways, I'm coming up on a break, and I believe I am going to have Tina Marie join me. Yay! So hang on to your seats, people.
You've been listening to Navigating the Truth, a show that will inspire you to transform the world around you, including your health. For more information on the show, Navigating the Truth, and the host, Caroline Bell Tumblety, as well as services she offers, please visit her website at souliam.org. That's SOULIAM.org.
It's as simple as that.
Navigating the Truth live every Sunday at 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 p.m. Eastern, exclusively on the KCOR Digital Radio Network.
I see incredible potential here.
Stop being corrupted by the mainstream media and keep your head.
That's the craziest thing I've ever heard.
We now return you to your regularly scheduled feed of lies. Until next week, of course. This is KCOR Las Vegas, home of the Digital Radio Network, broadcasting from a shack just south of Area 51.
Wait, that doesn't exist.
This is the KCOR Digital Radio Network. Now for the news.
Incoming message.
Hello? I can't hear you, but you can hear me, right?
We interrupt to bring you this.
We've hijacked your daily dose of regurgitated news to bring you Navigating the Truth. Brace yourself, listeners, as you're about to enter a world where the narrative is no longer masqueraded as the truth. A world where the conspiracies of yesterday's translate into the truths of today.
Are you listening?
The veils covering the truth are lifting, and understandings once suppressed are finally being revealed. Will you be ready? And now, your host and navigator through these circles of lies, the host of Navigating the Truth, Caroline Bell Tumblety.
Hi, welcome back to Navigating the Truth. I'd like to thank the listeners for tuning in. And Tina Marie, our producer and CEO and owner of KCOR Radio, is going to join me. And she's going to bring us up to speed on what the heck is going on.
What do you mean? What the heck is going on? There's a lot going on. It depends on what part of the country you're in. I mean, I was just reading an article this morning. It's funny how news media around the world covers certain events and certain events we don't hear about in the States. We had a spell here in the States where we were having a lot of train derailments and things like this. And, everybody knows about, was it the Flint or whatever? I think it was Flint or whatever, where they had the, the chemicals and all that stuff.
Oh, Ohio, right?
Yeah. And so that was made in the news media here. Not many people are talking about the huge train accident that happened in India Friday.
I saw that. Yeah.
Right now, there's over 300 people dead, over 1,000 people injured, and it was simply because of a faulty signal that sent the train down the wrong track, and then it
oh my God,
derailed. Basically accordion style, 3 or 4 cars ended up on another track that were hit by another train coming in the opposite direction.
Oh jeez, what a cluster!
Yeah, and if you've ever seen the Indian railways and how packed those trains are, the fact that 300 is horrible, but the fact that only 300 died
is a miracle.
Yeah, especially when you see the videos of it. So, a lot of the countries don't cover certain stories, and it's amazing that we're not, more aware of what goes on around the world. We get so caught up in our own little bubbles and our own little worlds that we don't really pay attention to the world around us. I probably the one thing that I have noticed over the last 3 years since COVID is how people have basically become so isolated over those years that they don't know how to interact with anybody else, and it's all about them.
I know, it's bizarre, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. It's very weird when you kind of look what's going on in the world and how everybody, even walking down the street, everybody's got their heads in their phone, their head down, not paying attention to what's going on. And I think here in the United States, where, I find it funny how many people I talk to that are getting their news from TikTok. It just amazes me that when I hear people talk and I'm like, do you understand that's just not, not accurate? Go out and look, go out and do your own research and look. But I mean, even with, I hear people talk and they're like, oh, geez, all the news is this, this, and this. No, the news is not just this and this. The news is that because you're using Google or Yahoo, you're searching for certain events, and the algorithms and the spiders that are working are presenting you with news articles they think you want to see. This AI intelligent one thinks this is what you want to see. So when you think you're being inundated, and I think this is a huge problem. I think this is why we have this idea that there's systemic racism across the country. Because you have individuals who are looking at certain things and all of a sudden they think everything is racism because every article that's popping up in the newsfeed is racist.
It's feeding that, yep.
But it's not. It's because of the algorithms. They're trying to predict what you want should be in your newsfeed. Oh, and I think this is very dangerous when we look at this. And it's even dangerous when you start looking at what all these people using these AI bots, right? They're using them to write papers. They're using them to write do all this stuff. And it's going to get to the point where, I think Elon Musk is right when he said that we should fear AI. Because AI is a program, but whether it's a program or not, at some point that program is going to become, and I wouldn't say self-aware, but it's going to become smart enough that it's going to be able to predict what you're going to say, what you're going to do, what you want to look at, and it's going to be able to feed that.
Yeah.
We talk about like the movie in The Matrix, right? They're in this environment, but they're really just energy, right?
Right.
In a way, is that not what we're in now? When you look at people on their phone, basically can't unplug themselves from those devices. And who's profiting from it? The companies that have these AI machines and these bots and these algorithms that are, being fed by you, the consumer, constantly going through all these different devices and looking for information. So I think Elon Musk is very smart when he said, and he's not the only one.
No, there's a bunch of them coming out and saying
there's many that have come out and said we need to be very careful about this whole AI thing, and I agree. Again, there's so much in the world that is going on that we just, it's sort of like smoke and mirrors. It's like being a magician. Hey, look over here. Why we do what's going on over here. I mean, we had this in the United States. We just recently had this whole debate with this debt limit. Yeah. And they are raising the debt limit. Supposedly they're going to make some cuts, but there's the problem is that if you go and read what's in this bill, and I haven't had a chance to read everything, I've been so busy, but I've been reading quite a few of those pages. This bill is only going to make these cuts for 2 years. So even though we raised the debt ceiling, in 2 years, a lot of these programs that were going to be cut have the ability to become back, which means our debt limit's going to be even higher. And the media wants to scare you like, oh, it's a bad thing if we exceed, we default on the debt limit. Why is it a bad thing? There's a reason why, and granted, I understand a country is different, but there is a reason why we have here bankruptcy, because it allows you to clear off debt, get a fresh start, and you have to deal with shit for 7 years, whatever. But after 7 years, nobody even knows you were bankrupt, and you can move on with your life. Many good businesses, and the United States has become a business, has used this policy, and I know they criticize Trump for doing it. Listen, there's many companies. Disney's done it. There's many companies that have used bankruptcy to their advantage, and if you use it right, people talk about Donald Trump, filing bankruptcy. But Donald Trump never filed bankruptcy. His corporations that he started have, and those corporations are just using a tool that was put in place well before Donald Trump. And taking advantage of the system. Okay. Right. And it's, like I said, it's used all the time. Even regular people use it, whether it's Chapter 7, Chapter 11. They use it in order to get a fresh start. Right. We need to start considering doing certain things like that. And the reason being is because we owe debt to a lot of different countries, China being one of them, is our main person we owe a lot of debt to. Now, we have to be very careful, because if you look what China is doing in these other countries, they've done it, I think in South America, there's a couple countries where what they've done is they gave them loans or, bought their debt, knowing that they were going to default, and they didn't have the laws like we have here in the United States, so they default, and what does China now do? They come in and now own those ports. Right. So in a way, they are owning part of the country. Without actually going in and taking it over, so to speak. And there's a lot of this going on. China is doing this a lot across the globe, and we just want to kind of turn a blind eye to the fact that China has the ability to do this. Well, it would be no different here, right? Like, if we default, people talked about, like, what are we going to give them, California? Right? I mean, and wow. Yeah, and if you look what's going on in California, there's like a mass exodus in California. We actually here in Nevada are, I don't want to say reaping the benefits. I think we're going to become California 2.0 if we're not careful. Because if you're going to move businesses or your personal people here to from California to Nevada, I'm fine with that. But keep your policies that you voted to California that destroyed California out of Nevada.
Right. Learn your lessons.
Yeah. Right. But they're not. And we just were notified, I guess, one of the film companies are moving out here to the Summerlin area. They're building a $700 million facility. They're getting a lot of free tax credits from the state. The state's giving them a lot of free taxes. Sort of like if you move to Texas and all that, they're doing a lot of that stuff. Okay, great. That's fine. I think Samsung or Sony, I think it was Sony, just agreed that they would spend over $1 billion in this facility over the course of 10 years. So is it good for the economy? Yes. But here's the problem. we don't have water here in Nevada.
Right.
You cannot keep continually opening the doors and making an open door policy and let people move into the state and then complain when there's no water. We're seeing that a lot. Now, we did get a lot of water this year.
Good.
We had a lot of snow up in the Mount Charleston area, a lot of snow up in Colorado that fills the Colorado River that we take from. So that's great, but you can't continue to build to tap into this water source. Now, they've been saying that we had a water shortage all the way back to the 70s. Mm-hmm. And this is when Lake Mead was literally 10 times the size it is now. But we continue to have businesses, builders who are nationwide, who are lining the politicians' paychecks in order to get the ability to get these pieces of land. Right now, in most of Nevada and Henderson, any land that's being released is being released to the builders.
Wow.
As an individual, good luck trying to find a piece of land that you can get. Now, the other thing in the United States that's happening, and this had this big jobs report come out, and everybody was, oh my God, where they were expecting 192,000 jobs. They came up with supposedly 360,000, and everybody was going crazy about, this. Well, you've got to really look into those numbers, and they always adjust them down. So, 360 might end up being 190 next month because they'll adjust it down. Mm-hmm. But that 190, what it doesn't talliate is it doesn't talliate whether it's full-time or part-time, and it definitely doesn't distinguish between somebody having to work 2 30-hour jobs to make ends meet. So
right.
if you get 2 jobs, it's recorded as 2 jobs, not one person getting 2 jobs. Or if it's 3 part-time jobs, it's not recorded as 3. Yep. So those numbers can be very, very deceiving here in the United States because of the way they tally it. It's not like, this person, let's check this name. They've got 3 jobs. They're working 30 hours, so they're working 90 hours a week to make ends meet. Well, that's 3 new jobs. No, that's one person working 3 new jobs. So the unemployment gets manipulated because now you think, well, there's 3 new jobs. The unemployment rate goes down because people who stop looking are taking off the unemployment. So if 100,000 people run out of their unemployment benefits and now are no longer able to get benefits, those 100,000 people come off the numbers, and the percentage is all of a sudden drops down. Well, It didn't drop down. Just these people aren't looking for work. They've fallen out of the workforce. They can't find work. Mm-hmm. And those numbers get very manipulative. The biggest thing that there was a report that came out, I think it was Wednesday or Thursday, and I didn't hear of any media outlets picking this up, because to me, this is what's very alarming. In order to have a lot of jobs, you have to have businesses, and with businesses normally have retail property. So they rent space. Mm-hmm. Here in the United States, across the United States, if you take the average right now, more than 50% of all the retail space available is vacant.
It's the same here.
It used to be upwards in the neighborhood of about 15%. Mm-hmm. We're at 50% vacancy. This is businesses that are either gone away or businesses have restructured. Maybe people are working from home now. This affects a lot of different people. All the way down the line. Now, with this 50% vacancy, the problem is with the current economy and the interest rates. And even with the SBA doing they revamped their loan process, which is great. But when you're looking at, they talk about, well, the interest rate's only 6.5%. Yes, 6.5% to 7% if you have over an 800 plus credit score. Most people don't have that. When you start dialing down the numbers and looking and saying, well, geez, if you're around the 700, you're at 8-9% interest rates on whether it's a house and that difference that from 6.5, let's say, percent to an 8.5% is a difference of $500-600 a month for a loan, for an average loan. That is a lot of money.
That's a lot of money. Yep.
And again, this is all stuff that people don't want to talk about. And I said this quite a few years ago that I thought we were going to see a crash, and we're already starting to see it here in Vegas. And when we had the crash in 2008, it happened here in 2006 and started to go before really it went nationwide in 2008. This is why Vegas, whereas we were number one in foreclosures in 2008, 2009. We're already starting to see it here. We're starting to see prices come down. They were overinflated anyways. They were, 100% to 200% overinflated anyways. But we're starting to see these prices come down on houses, $50,000, $75,000, $100,000 right now, and they're continuing to drop. With the interest rates and the Feds, probably because of inflation, are not done raising the rates yet. I think you're going to see probably another hike. Probably August, September. They're going to do probably another 0.5% hike. You might even see another 1/4 to 0.5% hike probably November, December. This is going to push the housing market in the toilet, basically, because it's going to become almost impossible for people to buy at that interest rate. It's going to drive house prices down to the point where people are so underwater they're going to walk away from their homes. This is what happened in 2008 when the market started to crash. Yep. They were getting equity out of their home, and our home's worth $400,000, and the next thing you know, it was worth $180,000. Well, they owe $400,000, but the value is $180,000. They can't sell. So what do? They can't afford the payment because they just walk away. Mm-hmm. And I think you're going to see come the end of the year, beginning of next year, you're going to see. I think we're going to be in a situation even worse in 2008. Because we are going into, coming into an election year next year. And if you look what's going on, you have a Democratic Party that doesn't want to have any kind of open debates with anybody else, even though there's a couple other Democrats running, and who are actually polling. Some of them are polling 8 to 20%, with Joe Biden only polling at like 32%. Yeah. So, but they don't want to have a debate because they want to run Joe for whatever reasons. A lot of Democrats don't, but and then if you look what's going on the Republican side, you have Trump, who's just blowing away the field right now, and you have DeSantis. Now, everybody else is in single digits. They're pretty much everybody else. They're just non-existent right now. Now, whether or not, I guess Christie is supposed to enter the race next week. Maybe even Pence is going to open next week.
I saw that. Yeah, Mike Pence. Yeah, I did see that.
I don't think any of them are going. I think Trump got a huge bump in his numbers as things have started to leak out with, how our government basically was, targeting him. Look what happened. This is what I think is the double standard and people are starting to see it. Joe Biden fell this week at a graduation ceremony.
Yeah,
now, supposedly he tripped over a sandbag or whatever. If that is truly the case, he tripped over a sandbag. But this is the third time that he's fell in his 2-year presidency, especially the third time, I think, in the last year that he has fallen. Now, the media's just like, oh, that's just Joe. He's always okay. Everybody's like making sure he's okay. Now, superimpose that over to a few years ago when Trump was president. And he was coming down that walkway and kind of almost right. And it was all over the news, and he was just like, oh, we need to get rid of him, and he's mentally can't handle it, and he didn't even really it is amazing the double standard that we have here in the United States of how things are. Everybody thinks Joe is the worst. Now, I'm not saying Trump is the savior. I have a lot of Democrat friends who, if it came down to Joe Biden or Trump, they're going to vote Trump.
Yeah.
And the reason why they said this is not that they like Trump. They really can't stand the guy. But they also understand that his policies are much better. They were much better off 2 years ago than they are now. Yeah. The biggest concern they have is that they think Joe is in decline, and they have to look at who his VP is. And they are more worried that she will kill the United States as if she became president. And I think, the only way Joe could change is if he decided to swap to a new VP, which he could swap to a new VP if he runs into 2024. He could change VPs, and that's perfectly legal. But depending who he picks, now you're going to have, let's say he picks a guy. Well, now you're going to have the women vote go, oh, wait a minute. So you don't think a woman can do a job, so now you're going to bring in a guy. And then if you bring in another woman, you better bring in another, African-American woman, because otherwise you're going to lose the African-American vote, because they're going to think, oh, apparently a white woman can do a job better than the black woman, right?
Oh, God. Yeah.
So, he's in a bind. And I think really what the Democrats are hoping through this whole election process is that the Republicans are going to attack each other so bad that you're going to have the Trump, let's say the Trumpers, if DeSantis were to get the nominee, they're going to go, well, you know what? We're not going to vote for him. We're just not going to vote at all. Mm-hmm. Or you're going to have the people that support DeSantis going, oh, we're not going to vote for our guy. He didn't get it. Well, we're not going to vote for Trump either. And if that happens, the Democrats have a walk-in.
Oh, geez.
And again, if that happens, it's also going to be just horrible for all of us here in the United States, because 4 more years under their policies, I just don't think the American public could absorb that. I think most of them are just hoping to get by over the next probably year or two, try to get through to the next election cycle and hope things change.
Yeah. Well, we're coming up on a break, so hang on to your seats, listeners. We will be back in 3 minutes.
You're listening to Navigating the Truth with Caroline Bell Tumblety, where the truth survives and the lies are exposed.
I just want to assure you that everything is under control. There's been no damage except for some temporary malfunction of the radio.
Come be a part of this awakening by joining us in chat or by calling our hotline at 702-425-9230. That's 702-425-9230. Worldwide callers, find us on Skype at KCOR Radio.
We're pushing the ultimate frontier here. Control must be maintained.
More disinformation exposed and the truth discovered. After a word from our sponsors. New from the best-selling author of Summerland, Leo Bonomo, The Voice of Spirit. A collection of transcripts as well as a forensically tested recording from direct voice medium Leslie Flint. Come listen to the dead speak from the afterlife through Leslie Flint. Pre-order The Voice of Spirit and get a signed and numbered copy, making it a treasured collector's piece as well as a 15% discount. The knowledge and connection to spirit that comes with this will be truly life-changing. The Voice of Spirit, Leslie Flint recordings and transcripts by Leo Bonomo will be the most sensational book and set of recordings you'll ever own. To read stunning reviews of this book from some of the top spiritualists from around the world, as well as to order, go to www.leo-bonomo.com. That's leo-bonomo.com. Pick up your copy today.
It's great. I think it's great. It's great.
The all-new KCOR Digital Radio Network.
Great.
Please make a note of it.
It's great.
Hey Weirdos, it's Darren from Weird Darkness. Join me every Tuesday at 8 p.m. Pacific, 11 p.m. Eastern for 2 full hours of the paranormal, unexplained, and more. Coming up this Tuesday night, is there evidence that Elvis Presley didn't actually die in August 1977? A Virginia plantation is haunted by Boy Scouts. Are serial killers born that way, or is it how they were raised? These stories and more this Tuesday at 8 p.m. Pacific, 11 p.m. Eastern on Weird Darkness at KCORradio.com.
This is Ian Finch. Join me on Wednesday evening between 6 and 8 for the Ultimate Chart Show. 2 hours of the finest music brought to you direct from the UK. Plus our weekly Ultimate Top 10 Countdown, which you can vote for by visiting ianfinch.tv/chart and choosing your favourites. The Ultimate Chart Show at 6 Pacific and 9 Eastern, Wednesdays on KCOR.
Woven throughout the universe are keys to a hidden message. awaiting a voice that can decipher their coded meaning. A cosmic connection to the cosmos. Tune in to the KCOR Digital Radio Network at 12 p.m. Pacific, 3 p.m. Eastern for Cosmic Connection. Cosmic Connection. Cosmic Connection. Cosmic Connection with astrologers Caroline Lynch and Merlin Wizard. Your weekly astrology reading is but a phone call away. So call Cosmic Connection, Sunday, 12 p.m. Pacific, 3 p.m. Eastern, and get your free reading today. Cosmic Connection with Caroline Lynch and Merlin Wizard, exclusively on the KCOR Digital Radio Network.
This is KCOR Radio, coming to you live from Las Vegas.
Going live in 3, 2, 1.
Welcome back to Navigating the Truth, the one show that peels back the masks of the elite and exposes the truth we're not being told.
Here to warn you. You must not abuse the power you've been given. Eventually, you will lose control of that power and the whole world will suffer.
Come partake in the awakening by calling the show at 702-425-9230. That's 702-425-9230.
Give us a call now.
Those around the world, connect with us on Skype at KCOR Radio. Follow us on Twitter at KCOR Radio or use hashtag KCOR. Come engage in the discussion live in our chat room at www.kcorradio.com.
Our survival depends upon it.
Now, back to examining the narratives and uncovering the truth with your host of Navigating the Truth, Caroline Bell Tumblety. Caroline Bell Tumblety.
Hi, welcome back to Navigating the Truth, and I want to thank the listeners who have chosen to listen in today. And Tina Marie has been catching us up on the train wreck that the world has become. And thank you, Tina Marie, for joining me for the second half of the show. And oh my goodness, so how can we fix it?
Well, I think when you look at how things are fixed, I mean, with everything, there's ebb and flows. I've been in business long enough to know that most cycles run in about a 7 to 10 year span. So, in a 7 to 10, if you've been in business long enough, you'll have 7 or 10 years of great, and then there'll be 1 or 2 years that, this is why you put money aside. And a lot of businesses, I've bought and sold many businesses over my lifetime. And one of the things that I always find is that most businesses don't put money away for a rainy day. For example, this is why we lost so many businesses during COVID, because they couldn't get through that 3, 4, 5 months.
Right.
I think most people in general don't have an emergency fund and can't get through 3, 4, 5 months if they lost their job or a catastrophe happened. We've grown from a generation. If you have older relatives, grandparents who are in their 80s and 90s, you always used to laugh at them because they would save everything, right?
The good old days, yeah.
They would save everything. Like they'd have this in the closet. Well, you just never know. You might need this, paper towel clip or something, And why was that? Because they grew up in a generation where they understood there are ebbs and flows in every society, in every economic cycle, and something you put away today, you might have to pull out and use tomorrow. Yeah. We've gotten a generation where everything's disposable. Your phone, your car, everybody wants a new phone every year. They want a new car every 3 years, 4 years. This is why leasing for cars is big. People don't want to buy houses anymore. They want to rent so that they want to move to a new location. They change jobs constantly. Most companies, if you talk to them now, especially since COVID, it's hard to keep people. They are literally having a revolving door when it comes to employees, no matter what they pay or what benefits they give them. People are always looking for the grass greener on the other side. This is the society that we have grown up with. And at some point, it's going to change. At some point, people, as this generation gets a little older, and a little wiser, they're going to realize, because, you know, for the longest time, we didn't really have a huge catastrophe like we had with COVID, right? You know, the older generation, they went through stuff. What did they go through? They went through Vietnam, where they lost everything in the economy. It was like crap, right? The gas shortage in the 70s with Jimmy Carter and all this stuff, right? They grew up around that because they had the 50s and 60s, which were so profitable, and all of a sudden the 70s sucked.
Right.
I think this is going to be the same thing. We are going to have a generation in the next few years that are going to pass on the wisdom of, hey, we need to save for a rainy day.
Yeah.
And I think we have to start getting government out of our lives. I don't care what country we're in, especially here in the United States. There is not one program the government has ever put forth, that is worked for the people and did not cost the people a lot of money and actually worked right. This is why, you know, the private sector has always been much better at doing this. Why? Because they understand balance statements. They understand profit and loss statements. They understand living within a budget. Our government's, you know, excuse is, hey, let's just raise the debt ceiling. This is what we're doing. Let's just raise the debt ceiling. Oh, we'll kick the can down the road. Well, at some point that
somebody
can.
else deal with it, yeah.
Yeah, at some point that can is going to come up. And I think we were talking during break that right now, with the way the debt ceiling is, every U.S. citizen roughly is entitled to owe the government about $100,000.
That's insane.
It is absolutely insane. And all you have to do is go back 60, 70 years, and that number was roughly around 5,000 or 10,000. So over the last few years, we've added on the debt considerably, even though we've had added to the population of the United States significantly. We have seen a huge shift in where the wealth is. And I get sick of hearing people talk because the media convinces you, we need to tax the wealthy. We need to tax the wealthy. This is why we need 78,000 more new IRS agents. We need to tax the wealthy. Well, here's the problem with that. First of all, the one of the last years that Trump was in office, we had the highest amount of income ever come in from the IRS with the current agents they had. Why was that? Why did they have the most income ever come in? Because the government got out of the way, businesses were profitable, people had more spending money, and they spent money. That's why they got more taxes that came in. So what you have now is you have this IRS who all you have to do is that their numbers are public. And I laugh when I hear people say we got to tax the rich more. And I said, first of all, ask yourself this. I said, do you work for a company? Well, yes. Do you get paid by that company? Yes. Do you consider yourself rich? And most people say, well, no. Do you consider them rich? Well, yes. What do you think is going to happen if they get taxed more? Do you think your job's safe? No. Do you think products are going to go up? No, they're going to keep their same profit. Okay? If you have a business, you have a profit margin. You're going to keep that same profit margin, mostly because you have investors. And I tell people, do you have investments? Yeah. Do you want those investments to go down? Well, no. Well, then don't tax the rich, because when you tax the rich, those investments, if they want to keep the product the same price, they're going to cut your dividends. And people don't understand this. And the biggest thing people don't understand is that 90% of all the taxes that the United States collects is basically paid for by the top 7%.
Right.
So there's 50% of the people in this country who don't even pay taxes at all. Those are the people who are like, well, we're going to tax the rich more. No, here's a thought. Why don't you get off your ass, get a job, and contribute to society?
Yeah. Yeah. We have a problem with our water, our sewage systems and things. And the water company has pretty much, well, there's a bunch of them kind of got together and said, we're going to improve the infrastructure, we're going to improve it, but your water rates are going up. And everybody's like, but we've already had high water rates, you know, like when you have been collecting this money all this time, why was the infrastructure not being paid attention to? You know, like the profit that you were making, you want to put any of it back in the actual infrastructure. And I think this is why, like, people get, I mean, they dropped it for, what was it, 100, you could earn 140,000. They dropped it to 120,000, and people are being taxed 40%.
Right. But you can also look at these companies and you say, why wasn't it put back in?
Why? Yeah.
Well, here's the thing. You have to look at, see, again, we forget the way companies are structured. Most companies, if they're corporations and they're structured properly, you might have some CEOs making big money. And I have no problems with CEOs making big money. If you've started a company and you profit, you know what? Good for you. You should be able to make money. You've worked your ass off to get there. But most people, when I hear them say this, the first thing I ask them, I says, is it a public traded company? Because if it is, guess what? That profit is going into your retirement fund, your 401k, your investments.
Right.
So you're profiting from it in your retirement funds. Now, if they decide, well, you know what? No, we won't raise your rates. We'll take it out of the 401k. Well, then don't bitch when all of a sudden you're not making any money in your retirement because they stopped paying the dividends to pay this. See, and the CEOs understand because you have a board of directors, and those board of directors are adherent to the stockholders, and the stockholders can vote board members and CEOs in and out. Most people who have stock know that they have rights, that they can, by proxy vote depending on how much stock they have. CEOs, all of them out or in office. So these companies are making a profit, but that profit most of the time is going back in dividends. Now there's whole kinds of ways around it, and this whole thing, taxes and all this stuff here, whatever. And I laugh because when I hear people, and I'm not saying that companies shouldn't pay, but when I, like, for example, here in the United States, I don't agree with the fact that Amazon has got very rich by not having to pay taxes. But at the same time, when people say, well, we need to tax Amazon, well, that's great. But why do you like Amazon? Because the prices, because the prices are cheaper anywhere on the web, right? That's why people shop Amazon. And Amazon's structured business model was designed that way. Even if you have a website, if I have a website and I'm selling a widget for $15 on my website, if I have an Amazon store, I've got to sell it for $12. It always has to be cheaper regardless. Now, what happens when you decide you're going to tax Amazon? Amazon is going to raise their fees because the stockholders are going to still want their money. Now, guess what? Now you need to have, so your price on Amazon still has to be cheaper than your store. So either you need to raise the price in your store and then raise your price in the Amazon store, because otherwise they'll kick you off Amazon, or you keep your price the same and take less profit. Okay. Now, if Amazon, with the number of employees that they employ worldwide, if Amazon all of a sudden has to start paying all this taxes, what do you think is going to happen to all those people?
They're going to get laid off.
Correct. Yeah. And this is the ramification when I hear people talk about stuff like this. They really don't understand. And partly because they don't teach economics in school. They don't teach business structure. They don't teach you corporations, whether they're S corporations, C corporations, LLCs, individuals, self-employed, whatever. They don't teach you simple business structures. People working for most companies just want to go get a paycheck. They don't want to understand where it comes from. Yeah. And when you start looking where stuff comes from and where money, gets paid off. I mean, I've seen people say, "Oh, these people are making all this da 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 da," and then you start looking away. Like when they say they don't pay taxes. Well, here's the thing. Yes, they do pay taxes. Why? Because most likely they have buildings. Guess what? They're paying property tax on those buildings.
Yeah. Yep.
They have employees. Guess what? They're paying basically, FICA tax, whatever stuff, into the federal government and stuff like that for Social Security. All this stuff here is getting paid into state and federal, from these employees. So yeah, the employees are paying it, but so is the usually Amazon. And then on top of that, a lot of times they have great medical benefits. Well, guess where all these insurance companies are getting paid? Most of that money, a lot of times Amazon either pays for it or they pay for a good chunk of it. It's coming from them. So when people say they don't pay taxes, In the literal sense, they don't. But guess what? All those cars on the road that deliver to you, guess what? They're paying gas tax.
Yep.
You know, so we have to understand the structure of corporations before we start condemning corporations who don't pay their fair share of taxes, especially when you look at Jeff Bezos, who makes $1 billion, and he's in the upper tax percent. So he's paying a pretty good portion of any income he gets is going back to the federal government as well, because it's on his personal tax returns.
Yeah. Well, I think for like the average person, like, yeah, they should be teaching these things in school, but the average person is like, I can mention my daughter, like she's actually took a pay cut at this point because her pay is not keeping up with the cost of living.
Nobody's pay is.
And that creates the idea that something isn't fair. And people look for, it must be all these people, all these massive amounts of money. But there's something about the business model itself that's it's not improving our world, you know?
Right. And then when you own a company, and this is, again, when people, I feel bad for her having to take a pay cut and all this stuff here. And when you look at the companies and you want to blame the companies and you're just like, no, don't blame the companies, because listen, those companies and those companies, their profit is going to people's retirement funds. Okay. Those profits are going into the owners that started these companies, worked their ass off to get. I mean, Amazon, people forget, we think because Amazon's so big, Jeff Bezos was in a little 400 square foot little place that he worked at with a little sign right on cardboard that said Amazon when he first started. Okay?
Yeah.
He worked his ass off to get, so were we going to penalize him for all the hard work he did to build a company? No, we should not penalize him. We should encourage more people to be able to do companies like this.
But look at all the bookstores, though, that went out of business. You know, look at all the mom and pop bookstores that went out of business.
Right,
you know?
but again, so let's look at that, because I've seen it because I'm in the process of buying a hobby shop. And I have people come in all the time and they talk about this. And I say, well, you know, let me ask you this. How often do you come into the train store to buy stuff? Almost anybody that comes in there and they start using that excuse. And I say to them, I says, are you not the problem? It's not the stores. It's not Amazon. It's you. Because you want to save $2 on an item. You don't come into a store that actually has overhead and rent and has to pay all this other stuff. You choose, I want to save $2, so I'm going to buy it online. Well, that's great. When you buy it online, you are hurting the brick and mortar stores. Same with the books. You want to buy a book because you're going to save yourself $5 on Amazon. Well, don't complain when the bookstore in your town goes away.
Yeah. Oh, no, I hear what you're saying. I mean, it's like the blood diamonds, right, for Africa. And the woman wants that engagement ring, you know, but she didn't really care that it's a blood diamond.
Right.
You know, it's, I know we are, like, when we're buying clothing that is being made in, like, third world countries. You know, it's children that are climbing under these machines and working these factories.
Well, this is the whole thing, this whole push with electric cars, right? We got to save the environment. Well, here's the problem. You can buy all the electric cars you want. You're going to have to use electricity to pay for them. Well, how are you going to generate electricity? Are they going to be coal driven? Are they going to be nuclear power driven? Are they going to be solar driven? Whatever. However that goes, but you have to. But what they don't want to tell you is those batteries are not biodegradable. We're going to end up with a landfill of just batteries just killing the earth, number one. Number two is, let's talk about where those come from. Those batteries, the lithium and all that stuff and the cobalt that come from those batteries are in China, Indonesia, India, Taiwan. That's where all this stuff is coming from. And how are they being brought? They're being brought into countries like India and China, who are the worst offenders for pollution. They're not going to change. We keep buying their product. They're not going to change, right? And then these electric cars are all that material is being mined by slave labor And the trucks that transport those are huge ass trucks. And you can't use electric trucks because they're so big. And guess what? Those trucks are using like 105,000 gallons a day of gas.
My goodness.
They put more pollution in the air in 1 year than all the cow farts supposedly that they're supposed to do, right? So we have to trade off and say, again, people don't want to look where something came from. They want to say, well, if we do this, well, that's great. Well, if we're going to do this, where does this come from? It's all these people like who want to get rid of oil. Well, I always tell them, like, think of how many products, your computer, your cell phone, anything to do with plastic, everything plastic. You turn around and you've got a plastic for your laundry detergent. Well, guess what? Where do you think that plastic came from? It's a petroleum byproduct, right? And then when you look at, for example, they want to get, this is the thing that gets me. They talk about getting rid of, getting rid of these coal plants. All right. Well, you want to get rid of the coal plants? That's great. What are you going to do about steel and what are you going to do about concrete? And they go, well, that has nothing to do with it. Yes, it does.
Yeah, it does.
Because a byproduct of coal is ash, and ash is used in steel as well as concrete. You get rid of the coal plants, you get rid of the ash, and that ash no longer. So what happens to the concrete and steel? You're either going to have to get it from another source, or the price of coal, the concrete and steel are going to go through the roof. So there's ramifications for everything, but we are such a society that are just so got the tunnel vision, got the blinders on, that we don't want to understand that this, butterfly effect, right? The butterfly effect. If this butterfly flaps its wing here, it affects something over here.
Right. But I think we have to understand these things. It's the only thing that is actually going to create a world that we can just thrive in, otherwise this is a dead end.
Oh, absolutely. And I think we've seen this, we've seen this a lot. It happens all the time. And I think, again, people are so nearsighted. They're so self-absorbed that they don't want to look out their little bubble about how things are made. What's the benefits of these other products, the byproducts that come from it. The ramifications of every little thing. If I'm a small business and you start raising taxes, then I've got to make cuts or I've got to raise the price of my product because I don't want to take a pay cut. So if I'm not going to take a pay cut, I'm going to raise my products or I'm going to cut my employees. That's just the way it is. So do not blame the big companies or your CEO or these other companies. Look at the real source of the problem, and almost all the time the real source is the governments themselves who are passing laws to let them profit from your demise.
We don't need government and their noses in our. I don't want them in my business. I don't want, they don't make good decisions for me.
Our founding fathers, when they started the United States, none of them worked full time. They always worked part time. They all had their own companies, their own jobs. It wasn't a full time gig. It wasn't intended to do that. And I know we've gotten bigger. People, we're getting bigger. That's great. Nobody should be a full-time politician, and no politician, I've always said, you want the politicians to work in your favor? Well, let's stop giving them big-ass paychecks. Let's stop giving them free health care for life. Let's stop giving them free cars and free homes and free gas. If they actually had to be on a budget and like the rest of us, you watch how different laws would get passed so they could turn around and reap the benefits of what they were getting paid, same as we. But in the meantime, no, they want to keep their status quo, and the only way to keep their status quo is to keep taking from us, the peasants. And this is why our founding fathers here in the United States, and I know people in other countries hate to hear this is why we have our Second Amendment. Because they knew at some point and some time we were going to have to rise up. There's a reason why, we always joke, why did we leave Britain? Because of taxation without representation. And if you look at now, we are taxed more now than we ever were into the British realm.
Yeah, you're so right on about it. It's we have to take this back. This is our world. These are our families. These are our neighbors, our children. We don't need government. We actually know what the right thing is.
Ronald Reagan always said the worst words to hear is we're from the government, we're to help. And he's so true because they've never made a program that has helped anybody.
Yeah. Oh, thank you, Tina Marie. This was awesome. Like,
thank
and
you, Caroline.
I hope it gave people food for thought. And up next, we have Cosmic Connection. So stay tuned, everybody, and I'll say goodbye and have a fantastic week, and I'll be back next Sunday. So take care, everyone.
You've been listening to Navigating the Truth, a show that will inspire you to transform the world around you, including your health. For more information on the show, Navigating the Truth, and the host, Caroline Bell Tumblety, as well as services she offers, please visit her website at souliam.org. That's SOULIAM.org.
It's as simple as that.
Navigating the Truth live every Sunday at 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 p.m. Eastern, exclusively on the KCOR Digital Radio Network.
I see incredible potential here.
Stop being corrupted by the mainstream media and keep your head.
That's the craziest thing I've ever heard.
We now return you to your regularly scheduled feed of lies. Until next week, of course.
This is KCOR Las Vegas, home of the Digital Radio Network, broadcasting from a shack just south of Area 51.
Wait, that doesn't exist.
This is the KCOR Digital Radio Network. Now for the news.
Thank you for listening to Navigating the Truth. And you can access all the archives for free on kcorradio.com. And please join me on June the 11th. Shows live 10 a.m. Pacific. Thank you very much.